The hospital was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines and the occasional footsteps of nurses moving down the hallway. It was past midnight, and the fluorescent lights cast a pale glow over the waiting room. The air felt heavy, too still, too cold. Troy sat slouched in one of the plastic chairs, arms crossed, jaw tight. His eyes were red, but not from crying. More like anger boiling, just beneath the surface. Across from him stood Dr. Evelyn Cross, her face calm but serious. She had just come from Amara's room. "She's stable," Dr. Cross said gently, "but she's in a coma. We're doing everything we can." Troy didn't look at her. He just scoffed, shaking his head. "Why are you even trying so hard?" Dr. Cross blinked, surprised. "Excuse me?" He leaned forward, voice sharp now. "Let her die. She's just a girl. She ruined everything, our family, our name. She brought this on herself." The words hung in the air like poison. The nurse behind the counter stopped typing. Even the security guard turned his head, frowning. Dr. Cross took a slow breath. She had heard many things in her years at the hospital, but this was different. "She's 17, she said, her voice low but firm. "She tried to take her life. And you sit here blaming her?" Troy didn't flinch. "She lied. She tore our family apart. She made my dad look bad. All for what? Attention?" Dr. Cross stared at him, her expression unreadable. Then she stepped closer. "You don't deserve to be her brother," she said, her voice now full of quiet anger. "Not after what you just said." Silence followed. Troy looked away, jaw clenched again. He had no answer, no defense. Dr. Cross turned and walked back down the hallway, her steps quicker now. As she disappeared around the corner, a nurse finally spoke up. "Dr. Cross," she called softly, "should we notify the authorities?" Dr. Cross paused, nodded once. "Yes," she said. "And find her journal." She mentioned a note. Back in Amara's room, machines beeped steadily. She lay still, fragile under the white sheets. Bruises peeked out from under her hospital gown. Her face was peaceful, but her story was not over. Not yet. Amara was always the quiet one. While other girls laughed loudly in school halls or posted pictures of their lives online, Amara kept to herself. She was smart, very smart. Her teachers praised her writing, her thoughtful answers, and her curious mind. But no one really saw her. Troy, her older brother, was the opposite. Loud, popular, full of charm. He was the star athlete of their school, the one people clapped for at games and celebrated after. He had trophies on the living room shelf, pictures with the mayor, and a long list of admirers. Their father, Raymond, never hid his pride. He used to say, "Troy's going places. He's our future." When Amara brought home perfect grades, he'd nod and say, "Good." But when Troy won a game, Raymond would take him out to eat, post about him online, brag to the neighbors. Amara would stay home and eat leftovers. She didn't complain. Not out loud, but the silence built inside her. So she started writing. Late at night, when the house was dark, Amara would open her notebook and let the words pour out. Page after page, she wrote about how invisible she felt, how every smile she gave was fake, how sometimes she wished she could just disappear. The journal became her best friend, her only friend. But there was something else, too. Something she didn't write about right away. A secret that lived deep in her chest, one she wasn't sure how to name. She had seen something awful. And after that, things got worse. Now Amara lay still in the hospital bed. Tubes ran from her arms. Her breathing was soft and steady, but she didn't move. Her skin looked pale under the lights, her hands resting gently by her sides. She looked peaceful, but inside her mind, a storm had already passed. Dr. Evelyn Cross sat by her side. In her hands was the journal Amara had left behind. It was found in the bottom of her backpack, zipped into a secret pocket. The first pages were gentle, poems, dreams, wishes. But as she turned the pages, the words got heavier. Why am I not enough? Why do they only love him? I saw what he did. I thought telling the truth would help. But now I'm the problem. Dr. Cross's eyes narrowed as she kept reading. He said no one would believe me, that I'd ruin everything. And Dad believed him. He always does. The words were shaky in some parts, as if Amara had been crying while writing them. But they were clear enough. A story was unfolding, a story of betrayal, of silence, of pain. Dr. Cross closed the journal and looked back at Amara's face. "You didn't deserve this," she whispered. Outside, the hospital halls were quiet. Troy had stepped out, probably to call someone. Raymond hadn't shown up yet. Dr. Cross had spoken to many families over the years, seen many stories of trauma and heartbreak. But this one felt different, personal. She felt a cold anger rising in her chest. She looked down at the journal again. There were names, dates, details, enough to raise alarms, enough to make people listen if they were willing. But for too long, no one had been willing. Amara had been left alone in her pain. Everyone around her saw her as the girl in the corner, the quiet one, the one who didn't cause trouble. But inside, she had been screaming. Dr. Cross stood up slowly, still holding the journal. She walked to the door, turned back once more to look at Amara, and said softly, "I hear you now, and I won't let this be the end of your story." Down the hall, a nurse was waiting. "Doctor, should we do something with the journal?" Dr. Cross nodded. "Make a copy, and lock the original away. This isn't just writing. This is evidence." The nurse looked surprised but obeyed. Amara's body lay still, but her words had started something. A fire had been lit, and now someone was listening. It was a Friday afternoon, 3 weeks before the hospital. Amara had stayed after school to finish a project. As she walked toward the back gate, she heard voices behind the gym. Loud, angry, then something worse. A thud, a cry. She stopped. Carefully, she peeked around the corner and saw Troy. He had a boy pressed against the wall, another student, a younger one. His fists were clenched. The boy's lip was bleeding. Amara froze. "Troy, stop!" she shouted before she could think. Troy looked up, his eyes wild. He let the boy go, who immediately ran off without looking back. For a moment, Amara and Troy just stared at each other. "You didn't see anything," Troy said, stepping toward her. "I saw everything," she whispered. "I'm telling Dad." His jaw tightened. "You think he's going to care about what you say?" "He'll believe me." That night at home, Amara did tell their father. She waited until Troy left for a party, then knocked on the door of Raymond's study. He barely looked up from his paperwork. "Dad, I need to talk to you. It's important." Raymond sighed. "Make it quick." She told him everything, how Troy had hurt a boy at school, how she saw it happen, how scared the boy looked. For a moment, there was silence. Then Raymond stood up slowly, eyes cold. "Why are you trying to ruin your brother's future?" "I'm not, Dad. Do you have any proof? Or is this another one of your jealous little stories?" Amara felt her stomach drop. "You don't believe me. You've always been too sensitive," he said. "Always looking for attention. Your brother is under pressure. He has scouts watching him, a scholarship, a future, and you want to take that away." "But he hurt someone," she said, voice trembling. Raymond's hand slammed down on the desk. "Enough. Don't bring this up again. If the school hears about this, if anything happens to his chances, it's on you." Amara ran upstairs, tears burning in her eyes. She locked her door and collapsed onto the bed. The next morning, Troy cornered her in the kitchen when their father was out. "You told him?" he asked, voice low and dangerous. She didn't answer. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think anyone's going to believe you over me? You're just the weird little sister. I'm all he's got." Then he leaned closer. "Say one more word to anyone, and I promise, you'll regret it." Amara avoided him the rest of the weekend. She barely ate, barely spoke. On Monday, she tried to talk to a teacher. "Ms. Keller." Her voice shook as she asked for a moment in private. But before she could even speak, Ms. Keller glanced at her watch and said, "Can we talk after class? I'm already running late." Amara never went back. She felt smaller each day. At home, no one looked at her. At school, Troy acted like nothing happened. The boy he attacked had stopped coming to class, and no one asked why. The pressure built inside her like a balloon ready to burst. She kept writing in her journal, but the words no longer helped. They just reminded her how trapped she was. She had done the right thing, and been punished for it. She had spoken up, and been silenced. That night, after another dinner where no one spoke to her, Amara sat in her room alone. The walls felt closer than ever. She stared at her notebook, her thoughts spinning. The shame, the fear, the loneliness. It was all too much. She wanted the noise to stop. And so, slowly, she opened her drawer, took out the pills, and swallowed them one by one. The last thing she remembered was the sound of her little cousin calling her name. Then darkness. The days after her father shut her down felt heavy. Amara moved through school like a shadow, silent and invisible. She stopped raising her hand in class. She kept her head down in the hallways. The notebook became her only safe place. Every night, she poured her heart into its pages. She wrote what she couldn't say. Her fears. Her anger. Her questions. Why did they choose him over me? Why does speaking the truth feel like a crime? Am I really that easy to forget? Her words were raw, honest, and full of pain. She hid the journal in a box under her bed, covered with old schoolbooks. She checked it every night, just to make sure it was still there. At school, Ms. Keller began to notice. Amara used to stay after class to ask about essays or get help with assignments. Now she packed up quickly and left before anyone could speak to her. Her eyes were dull. Her clothes hung loose. She barely spoke. One afternoon, Ms. Keller called out gently, "Amara? Everything okay?" Amara hesitated. For a second, she almost said something. But then she saw Troy outside the classroom, laughing with friends like nothing was wrong. She shook her head. "I'm fine," she mumbled and walked away. Ms. Keller sighed. She had a feeling something was wrong, but she didn't want to assume. Didn't want to get involved in something she didn't understand. She told herself if it got worse, she'd speak up. It got worse. Troy had started spreading lies. At school, people whispered when Amara walked by. I heard she made up a story to ruin Troy's life. Jealousy is ugly, you know? She probably likes drama. That's what weird girls do. Even at home, the tension grew. Aunties started acting cold. A cousin told her she was selfish for trying to ruin Troy's chances. Raymond didn't say much, just avoided her more than usual. Amara felt like a stranger in her own home. One evening, she came back from school and found her bedroom door slightly open. Her stomach dropped. She never left it open. She rushed inside. Her pillows were on the floor. Her desk drawers pulled out. Her closet was half open. Her books were thrown around. She dropped to her knees and pulled the box out from under the bed. It was empty. Her journal was gone. She sat frozen for a long time. She didn't cry. She just stared at the empty box, her breath shallow. That notebook held everything, her truth, her secrets, her shame. The next morning at school, everything changed. She walked into the hallway and saw a group of students crowded around the bulletin board. They were laughing. Some looked shocked. Others looked curious. Her heart started to race. She pushed through the crowd and stopped. There, taped to the wall, were pages from her journal. Her handwriting, her words, blown up on paper for everyone to read. I hate how invisible I am. I wish someone would see me. Sometimes I wonder if dying would make them notice. She stepped back, dizzy. The voices around her felt like knives. Wow, she's so dramatic. No wonder Troy avoids her. Did she really write all that? That's messed up. She ran. Through the halls, out the gate, past the trees. She didn't care who saw her crying. She just needed to get away. When she got home, she went straight to her room. She locked the door and fell to the floor. The tears wouldn't stop. Her chest felt tight, like something inside her had broken. She had trusted that notebook more than anyone. It was the only place she had left. And now, even that had been stolen from her. That night, she didn't eat dinner. No one asked why. Raymond didn't knock. Troy didn't care. The house was quiet. She opened the bathroom cabinet and stared at the bottle of pills. Her hands were shaking. Her mind felt numb. She couldn't see a way out. She sat on her bed and opened a blank notebook. With trembling hands, she wrote just one sentence. I tried. Then she swallowed the pills, one after another, until everything went black. It was her little cousin, Zara, who saved her. Zara had come into her room to borrow a hair tie. She found Amara lying on the bed, pale, not moving. At first, she thought Amara was asleep. Then she noticed the bottle on the floor. She screamed. Raymond came running. The ambulance was called. Troy stood in the hallway, silent, as the paramedics carried Amara out on a stretcher. Zara kept asking, is she going to be okay? What happened to her? No one answered. And just like that, Amara was gone from the house. A girl who was never loud. A girl who never asked for much. A girl who had been screaming inside, but no one heard, until it was almost too late. Raymond finally arrived at the hospital the next evening. His face looked tired, but not with worry, more like annoyance. He didn't ask to see Amara. Instead, he walked straight to the waiting room, where Troy was already sitting with his arms crossed, scrolling through his phone. Dr. Evelyn Cross entered the room quietly. She held a folder in one hand and Amara's journal in the other. Her eyes were sharp, serious. Mr. Raymond, she said, nodding once. We need to talk. Raymond looked up. How is she? She's stable. Still unconscious, Dr. Cross replied. Then she turned to Troy. And you? I want to understand something. Troy leaned back in his chair, his tone casual. Understand what? Dr. Cross stepped forward. Why you talk about Amara like she's trash? Like she's a problem to get rid of? Raymond raised a hand. Look, I know you mean well, doctor, but our family has been through a lot. Amara's always been different. She causes drama. She's emotional. I don't know what she told you, but she has a habit of twisting things. She wrote everything down, Dr. Cross said quietly, lifting the journal. In here. I've read it all. Troy laughed bitterly. So now a notebook is your evidence? It's more than a notebook, she said sharply. It's a cry for help. It's the truth, written by someone no one listened to. Troy stood up, clearly irritated. She almost cost me my scholarship with her lies. That's what this is really about. She couldn't handle being ignored, so she made something up to ruin me. She didn't make anything up, Dr. Cross said. She told the truth. She saw what you did. And instead of protecting her, you both tried to silence her. Raymond stepped forward, voice cold. You don't know our family. Don't act like you do. Dr. Cross met his eyes. I know enough. I know she tried to speak, and you shut her down. I know you covered for your son while your daughter fell apart. Raymond started to protest, but she cut him off. You want to know something else? She said. I was that girl once. A long time ago. I told the truth about someone I trusted, and no one believed me either. They said I was dramatic, that I wanted attention. I nearly died before anyone listened. The room went silent. I became a doctor so I could help people like her, and I won't let her story end like mine almost did. Troy rolled his eyes. So what now? You gonna post about it online? Tell the world your sob story. No, Dr. Cross said calmly. I already did what needed to be done. She walked to the window and looked out. I filed a report this morning with the police. And I sent a copy of the journal, redacted, to a journalist I trust. Her story won't be buried. Raymond's face turned pale. You did what? You heard me. Troy laughed, but it sounded forced. You think anyone's going to care about this? It's just drama. She's just a girl. That's when two uniformed officers stepped into the room. Are you Troy Okafor? One of them asked. Troy blinked. Yeah, why? You're under arrest for assault. You have the right to remain silent. What? Wait, are you serious? Raymond stepped forward. Hold on. This is a mistake. He didn't do anything. The officers ignored him. They handcuffed Troy as he began shouting. This is crazy. You're ruining my life. Dr. Cross didn't look away. Her face was calm, but her hands were tight around the journal. Another officer approached Raymond. We have some questions for you as well, about possible obstruction and failure to report. Raymond shook his head. I didn't do anything wrong. I was protecting my family. The officer nodded slowly. We'll see. Come with us. As they were led away, the room went quiet again. The nurses nearby had stopped to watch. One of them whispered, Is that really happening? Dr. Cross exhaled deeply. She sat down for a moment, looking at the hallway that led to Amara's room. She's still fighting, she whispered to herself. But at least now the world is listening. In that small hospital, something huge had happened. The silence that had protected Troy and Raymond for so long was finally broken. And all it took was one girl brave enough to write her truth, and one woman strong enough to believe it. 3 weeks had passed since the night Amara nearly lost her life. She was out of the hospital now, staying with her Aunt Marie in a small, cozy home on the edge of town. The walls were painted soft colors, and sunlight came through the windows in the morning. There were fresh flowers on the table, and the smell of warm bread in the kitchen. For the first time in a long time, Amara felt safe. Aunt Marie didn't ask too many questions. She simply listened. She made tea every evening, sat beside Amara while they watched quiet shows, and gave her space when she needed it. Her hugs were gentle, but strong like an anchor. Amara had started therapy. At first, she was scared to speak, but her therapist didn't push. She just waited, giving Amara the time she needed. Slowly, Amara began to open up. She talked about the pressure at home, the fear, the night she saw what Troy did, and the silence that followed. It wasn't easy. Some days, she still cried herself to sleep. But she was learning that healing wasn't about forgetting. It was about facing the pain without letting it own you. One afternoon, there was a knock at the door. Amara opened it and froze. It was Ms. Keller. She looked nervous, holding a small gift bag in her hand. I wasn't sure if you'd want to see me, she said softly. But I had to try. Amara stepped aside, letting her in. They sat at the kitchen table. I'm sorry, Ms. Keller began. I saw something was wrong, and I didn't do anything. I told myself it wasn't my place, but the truth is, I was scared. And I failed you. Amara didn't speak for a moment. Then she nodded. Thank you for saying that. Ms. Keller reached into the bag and pulled out a new journal. I thought maybe you'd want to start again. And if you ever want to talk, I'll listen this time. I promise. Amara smiled a little. It was small but real. Okay. A few days later, Amara stood in front of a group of reporters. The press had picked up her story after Dr. Cross released her statement. People wanted to hear from the girl at the center of it all. At first, Amara didn't want to speak. But then she thought about other girls like her, who might be suffering in silence. So she agreed. The camera lights were bright. Her hands shook. But when she stepped up to the microphone, her voice was clear. I was told to stay quiet. I was told no one would believe me. And for a long time, I believed that. But I was wrong. Speaking up is hard, but it saved my life. And I hope, if someone else is hurting, they know they're not alone. The clip spread fast online. People shared it with messages of support, of love, of regret for not seeing what she had gone through. Strangers wrote letters. Survivors sent messages. The silence had been broken, and her voice was finally heard. Dr. Cross didn't stand beside her that day. She watched from the crowd. But later, when they were alone, she said, I'm proud of you. You stood up, and you didn't let them win. Amara nodded. Thank you for believing me when no one else did. Dr. Cross smiled. Always. Troy was still in custody, waiting for his trial. The school had expelled him, and the scholarship was gone. His friends stopped defending him once the evidence came out. Raymond was under public fire for trying to protect his son instead of his daughter. His business was boycotted. His name, once respected in the community, was now whispered with shame. Amara didn't care about revenge. She wasn't angry anymore, not in the same way. She had let go of trying to make people love her the way she wanted. Now she was learning to love herself. That night, she sat in her room at Aunt Marie's house with the new journal open in front of her. She didn't write about pain or fear. She wrote about hope. Today I smiled and it felt real. I'm learning to breathe again. I'm not invisible. She closed the book softly and placed it by her bedside. This time, she was writing for no one else but herself. The sky was soft with the colors of early evening, pale gold and gentle blue. The lake was quiet, the surface calm, only moving with the breeze. Amara stood near the edge, her shoes pressed into the soft grass. In her hands was a folded piece of paper, worn at the edges. She had written it a few days ago. A letter, but not to anyone else. This one was for herself. She took a breath, opened it, and began to read in a soft voice. Dear me, I know you've been through more than anyone ever saw. I know you wanted to disappear. I know you felt alone, forgotten, and broken. But you're still here. She paused, her eyes filling with quiet tears. But she smiled too, because the words felt true now. You survived. And that's enough for now. She folded the letter and held it close to her chest for a moment. Then, slowly, she took out her journal and placed it on the bench nearby. The pages fluttered gently in the wind before she closed it. Click. It almost felt like the sound of a camera shutter, like a moment being captured, a memory sealed. She looked out at the water again. Her hair moved with the breeze. Her face, once tired and full of sadness, now held something different: peace, strength. She didn't know everything that would come next. There were still things to work through, still days that would be hard. But she had faced the worst and come out standing. She was no longer the girl hiding in the corner. She was no longer silent. She whispered the final words to herself, barely louder than the wind. They tried to silence me, but I'm still here. Hey besties, thanks so much for watching till the end. If you loved Amara's story, don't forget to like, comment, share, and hit that subscribe button for more powerful, emotional drama. Up next, her friends invited everyone except her to their girls' trip. She booked one seat beside. Don't miss it. See you there. Bye.